All right, so let's get to today. This one's titled Forget the Resolutions, which kind of seems backwards because I'm going to be talking about resolutions here. But I just kind of want to give my process on it because 2024 was the first year that I did things a little bit differently than I had been doing them before. Probably for the last 20 years, like I would think about this on end of December, early January. I'd write down some things that I wanted to happen that I thought were possible, achievable. And when you do that, you kind of set your goals as if you want to achieve them. So you don't set them too high. And then if you don't hit them, you get really discouraged. And I think kind of the whole premise that I want to base this podcast after today is a quote. I don't have the quote in front of me or anything like that. But the quote that I think of in terms of goals is that people really they overestimate how much they can accomplish in a day and underestimate how much they can accomplish in a year. And I would argue that. I would say you can't really accomplish anything in a day. So yes, people do overestimate that. But you also can't really accomplish anything in a year. You can work towards something, but you're never going to finish. You're never going to start and finish anything in 1 year. And I think you really should start looking at this differently. And that's what I did. Starting in 2024, I didn't set any goals for 2024. I set goals for the next 4 years, for the next Bitcoin cycle. 4 years, Bitcoin cycle made sense to me. And that's still what I'm working towards. So I did have a few things that I wanted to get done, which one of them included setting up this Start 9 here. That was kind of my main thing that I really wanted to do in 2024. And I did it. The Bitcoin blockchain finished downloading last night at about midnight. So I snuck it in by 1 day. But that is something like if there's things like that you want to do that you think is important, that would be very beneficial to your life, that you think that you can do like that. Like there's two different things. Like let's look at this differently. So that example there where I bought the Start 9, I took some time, I set it up, I learned a little bit how to do it. It's doable. You can do something like that in a couple of weeks. And I think if there is anything like that you want to do in 2025, you should absolutely write that down. But something like, I don't know, lose 20 pounds or shoot par at a golf course or become a zero handicap or make a $500,000. Those aren't things that you can just start and finish in a year. A year is very short amount of time. But if you say, okay, I want to make 500,000 at the end of the cycle in 4 years from now, you have a lot of time. And if I think back 4 years ago where I was today, I was in a completely different spot in my life. So the quote that I really want to focus on is people really overestimate the amount of things they can do in a year and significantly underestimate the things that they can do in 4 years in a Bitcoin cycle. So you should be thinking about things that you want to do, where you want to go. And one thing I really learned in 2024 or 2023, one of the two, was the importance of knowing your direction. More so than like your goals and your time frame and everything like that. You have to have some sort of direction that you're going into. And it was Earl Nightingale that I learned this from. A lot of his podcasts I spent listening to in 2024. And he says, if you think about a ship leaving a dock, and if you don't have any sort of direction and you're going out into the ocean, that thing could end up anywhere. And just like a plane, you take off from the runway. If you don't have any sort of direction, you could be flying around in the clouds until you run out of gas, which is going to end horrifically or tragically. And it's the same with a plane, with a ship, and with your life. If you don't have any sort of direction that you're going to, you're just going to float around in the sky, in the water, in the ocean, in life, and you're never really going to accomplish anything. So I do think you need to think deeply on what your direction is, where you want to go to. And then if you set that path, you set that direction, you think about that every single day. I think that's the two most important things that I want people to take away from the show today is have a direction. I would say that having a direction is the most important part, but the second thing there is you should be thinking about it, writing it down, or thinking about it, saying it out loud every single day for this next year and beyond. I need some water. I'm talking a lot today. We had a 2-hour show today, a live show, the last one of the year. So have a direction and say it, write it down, think about it every single day. And the reason why I think that works, and the reason why I'm so, I wouldn't say excited, but that's how my process changed. That's how my year changed, is by keeping it top of mind. And you're going to subconsciously make decisions throughout your day that keep moving you in that direction. I think that's the most important part of this whole thing. So let me just kind of read my blog here from today, or from yesterday. I didn't have time to do a podcast yesterday, but let me just read this and then we can kind of talk about it in a little bit more. And then I'll give some examples and some actionable things that I think would be helpful for you. So every year around this time, December 31st, in this case, 2024, people start writing down a list of things they want to accomplish. They give themselves 365 days to get them done. And I have been guilty of this myself for the first 35 years. It's the same old story. People go hard for the first few months. Then they get busy. Summer comes, summer goes. We scramble, the holiday comes, and we scramble just to make it through the year. It happens very fast. It does. And thinking back 2024, it felt like we were living in 2x speed. It happens very fast. And then we head into the new year hoping that this time will be different. We're discouraged and we're hoping that this year is going to be different. But spoiler alert, it won't be. And I'm definitely not suggesting that we give up on our goals. I'm saying that 365 days is not enough time to do anything meaningful. So change your time frame. Figure out the most important thing and give yourself 4 years to do it. Set your destination, like a Garth Brooks song, except I've kind of changed my mind on Garth Brooks the last couple of years. But set your destination. Show up every day and give yourself 4 years. Watch what happens. So I'm going to, aside from the goals here that I think people should, or the direction, that should be your number one focus. Write down your direction, whatever that is. That could be start a family. That could be get to 1 Bitcoin. That could be start a business. That could be earn $100,000 a year in your business. Whatever you want to do, whatever the most important thing is, just write it down. It can change. And in 2 weeks from now, if you think that's silly or something you don't necessarily want, you can change it. But you still need to have a direction, because with that direction, you're going to make subconscious decisions day in and day out. That's going to get you there, and it will happen. You have to be consistent. You have to think about it, talk about it every day to yourself or to others, and give it some time. So that's what I would say, is start with the direction, but there's a couple other things here that I think are what I've done. And this is what I did last year too. And this is why I would say that 2024 was the most successful year of my life. And not necessarily, my tax return might not indicate that, if you know what I mean. So I'm not saying it was the most money I've ever earned, because when you're working a job, I mean, it's really hard to do. I forget what I was even making when I left, but it's hard to do that in your first couple of years of going out on your own. But I would say, in terms of setting my direction, in terms of showing up, consistency, growing a community, adding value to people's lives, 2024 was by far the most successful year of my life. Not even close. And so what I did last year was I started writing down where I want to go to. I wrote down 2 or 3 things, which I eventually shortened to 1 thing after listening to a lot of Earl Nightingale. But I also wrote down a couple things that I wanted to do day in and day out, and different mindset changes. And so the 2 things that I'm going to be most focused on in 2025, and these are just things, they're not goals. They're just things that I want to write down and look at every day and really think about when I make decisions throughout the day, on my show, within the business, when I'm helping people, within my interactions with family, anything. I want to ingrain these into my skull. And the first one is that I want to find good in every situation. And an example of this that most recent in my life, which is kind of silly, but it's a thing that people go through every day. These type of things is what occupy people's minds and time and energy and stress. And so one of the things for me is that I have to shave, right? I know I never have a clean shaven face, but I just hate shaving. That's a big part of why I have a beard, is because I don't want to have to do it every single day. So I hate shaving. And the reason I hate shaving is because I'd rather be doing other things. I'd rather be learning, listening to, or reading, editing videos, posting stuff, doing streams, helping people, hanging out with the family here. That'd probably be the number one reason, because I usually do it at night, and that's usually what it's taken away from, is time with Bridge and Arnie here. And so I always get I spend, whenever I know I have to shave that day, I'm kind of like, oh God, I don't want to have to shave tonight. I'm just dreading it. And again, this seems like a really silly thing, and you could replace this with anything in your life. Cutting the grass, taking out the trash, whatever it is, whatever people dread in their life, smallest things. But if you find good in that and you flip it around and say, okay, well, I do have to shave, but this is time alone in the bathroom, and I could just throw on a good podcast for 45 minutes that I love listening to. And I don't necessarily get a whole lot of time throughout the day to listen to things on my own without any distractions. And so I just thought, it sucks that I have to do this, but at least I get to find a good podcast or a good show and just listen to it for half an hour, 45 minutes, shower, shave. And then you just change your perspective on it. You no longer dread it. You no longer worry about it. It doesn't cause you any sort of anxiety or, again, it's a very small example here, very silly, but this is the kind of things that people go through every day. So that's the first one, is find good in every situation. Then it completely changes your mind. And I think back to like Jocko Willink? His thing is good. It's the same kind of thing. If you're stuck in traffic, good. I get to do this. I hurt myself working out, good. Now I get to spend more time doing this. So you find the good in every situation. And it's not necessarily a goal with a time frame or anything like that. It just changes how you do things every day, and your outlook and your perspective and how you show up to things. So that's my first one. And the second one is that I wouldn't say it's be resourceful, but it is really value and conserve. And I don't really have a good way to put this yet. This is all kind of fresh, but value and conserve energy. And that could mean a lot of different things, but it does to me mean a lot of different things. But one of them is like the importance of sleep, the importance of spending your time and energy on the right things, the importance of not being lazy. When you walk around your house, like I do the majority of my work from home. So it's very easy to leave a room with the light on. It's very easy to leave the TV on or something that shouldn't be running. And instead of like just leaving it, when you look at things through like a Bitcoin lens, and this is how I see things now, which is, again, kind of weird. But like 5 years ago, if I left a light on in the house, I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to really cost me anything. Who cares? It's just money. It's not going to really have any impact on my life. But now I think of it as like, okay, well, if I take the extra 2 seconds here, go shut off that light that I walked away from, that could be 20 sats or 50 sats that I save in the future. And so if you conserve, utilize, and really value energy, if you think about things in energy terms, you really look at everything completely differently in your life, day to day, minute to minute. So don't be lazy, focus on the right things. And yeah, I need a good way to word that, but that's kind of the idea there. And again, it's not to tell you that you should be doing this yourself. This is how I approach things. And these are the things I want to focus on going into 2025. And again, the importance of this is not to write it down on January 1st and then revisit it in a year from now, but to write it down and to look at it every day and to say it out loud every day. And then you truly live it. You don't just dream it up one day and then forget about it and then fall back into your old habits. You embody it. So then I do have some goals here that I'm not going to share for the next 3 years now, but I'm still keeping track from last year. And I have made very good progress on them after 1 year. But that's the other thing there is like, instead of being mad that I didn't hit them after 1 year, I'm very happy and satisfied with my progress so far. And if I keep doing things that I'm doing, all right, sorry, had a bit of a distraction there. I had to shut the door on Arnie. But where I was going with that is that when you do that, you don't necessarily, again, you don't feel bad about it. You feel good. You're like, okay, well, the work I've been doing here, if I look at my progress, my 4-year goal versus where I am today, I'm happy with that. And I know that I'm on the right track. And if I just keep showing up and doing what I've been doing, I'm going to get there. So that's the other thing there is that have goals, but have a longer time frame. And then finally, I wrote down some things I would like to see happen in 2025. And I don't need to go through these either. They're kind of private. But these aren't goals. They're just, if I think about what I want 2025 to look like for me, these are the things that if they happened, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they happened, I would be happy about it. And I think just by writing them down, you put it out there into the universe and you look at these every day and you kind of, again, make subconscious decisions every day about, I wrote this down at the start of the year. This is something I wanted to do. Do I still want to do it? And if the opportunity presents itself or if something comes up, then you jump on it. And again, the reason I do this is because I just want to put it out there in the universe. I want to talk about it. I want to write it down. I want to look at it every day and remember, why I'm doing this and to keep showing up. And if I keep showing up, then some of these things could happen. Because I think, and just kind of speaking on myself personally and my own situation here, I think that a lot of people are scared to write things down. They're scared to think about it because they think it's too far-fetched. And it's like, it's not. Nothing is really that far-fetched. If you know where you're going, you have a direction, you show up every day, and you add value, there's really nothing that is out of the reach for anybody. I really believe that. It's just people take the wrong approach to a lot of these things. And so just to recap here, get your one thing overall, your direction. It's important. Think about it every day. Have your direction, think about it, say it, write it down every day. Have a couple goals that you want to do, not this year, but over the next 4 years. Write them down and revisit them often or every day. And write down some things, some mindset changes that you think would be very useful. If you changed your mindset, your perspective on these things, it would benefit your life and it'd be a net positive in your life. And think about a few things. This is kind of optional, I would say, but these have been very important for me. And then the third thing is that write down some things that you would like to see happen in 2025. No pressure, just things and kind of make some, I wouldn't say like bigger goals, but like things that aren't likely to happen, but could. And I think that if you write them down, if you talk about them, if you think about them every day, I think there is a much higher chance of them actually coming true. So I think that's it. I want to keep these pretty short. I think that this one, a lot of people will get value from. I really do. Because I spent the first 30, 32, 33, 34 years of my life looking at this the whole wrong way. And it's because that's what we're taught. They tell you how to make goals, but they don't really tell you how can I say that? Like even the whole 1 year goal, be specific, have timelines. Yeah, that's good. But at the same time, nothing meaningful happens in 1 year. And so that's kind of the purpose of today's show, is just to get you to think a little bit differently. I don't even know what I'll title this yet. I call it Forget the Resolutions, but it might be something else. So anyways, I'm rambling here. So I want to say thank you for listening to this one. I hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you shoot a boost in the fountain, or just however you can support the show. I would appreciate that. And let me know, was this helpful? If you change your mind on anything, if there's anything that you wrote down or anything you'd like to share in terms of your 2025 goals in Bitcoin or in your life. And it is my only feedback loop here on the podcast. So big shout out to, again, Joey and Plunger for the boosts on this show. And I hope we can keep growing this podcast in 2025. It's not a daily or a weekly. It's just every time I have something that I think is worth talking about, we're going to do one of these. So Happy New Year. Happy New Year's Eve. And I really believe that 2025 is going to be the best year of our life and probably one of the better ones in human history. And we're knocking at the door right now. So I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope you have a happy new year tonight with friends, family, and you go into 2025 with some fire lit and a direction. So have a great day, everybody. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.